So it is now 6:30 on Monday, October 16th, 2023. This is the start of our regularly scheduled Conservation Commission meeting. And we are obligated to read a preamble concerning that this is not an in-person meeting. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 bill extending several COVID-era policies and programs by allowing virtual meetings to continue March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025. This meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation for members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this meeting this hearing/meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hands virtually or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Depending on the hearing, you can just throw in your voice and we will recognize you and request you to state your name. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Norton Cable website, which is www.nortonmediacenter.org, an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So we have tonight participating myself, Chair, along with a new member, Paxton Hauschel, Mark Fernandez, Tom Best, and we have our director, John Thomas, as well as our assistant, Megan Harrell.
Mr. Chairman?
So it sounds
Julian?
like, yeah, you connected by phone?
I am. My computer won't even turn on, so I'll be taking notes by hand tonight. I do apologize for that.
Okay, it must be the solar storm.
But I'm here.
Okay, very good. Our first item on the agenda is determination 1134, 376 Old Colony Road. It's a request for determination of applicability by Steve Lasavita. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Craig Siganowski, Rimet.
All right. You may need to get a little closer to your microphone, and you probably have screen sharing privileges.
Yeah. Can you hear me better now, or?
We can.
This is also Brian Donahue. I'm partners with Steve Lasavita.
Okay.
Good evening. I can't tell if my video is on or not.
Your video is not on at the moment.
Okay. I will try to get that on.
And Craig, what we're seeing is a list of files. You may have to double click that. Let's see, which one is your plan?
Came up on my screen. Obviously, you didn't get it.
Well, no, it's not. It's not being displayed.
Oh, I can see it though.
Well,
I'll click on it again.
yeah, you may have to.
Bring it up now. Does it come up now?
Not so far, but it might come in.
I can see it, Craig. John, I'm not sure if you can. There are 4 boxes that say Lasavita.
Yeah, but we need to see the plan.
Yeah, well, I've double clicked. The plan came up on my screen, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
so what you need to do here is you're actually sharing the folder instead of the PDF. So if you actually just share the PDF, you have options when you click that little arrow.
Yep.
And you're just gonna make sure you click you can actually end screen right now. It's easier to do it that way. So just try again and just share the PDF that's already open on your computer.
Okay. Hang on a second. I clicked on the wrong one. Hang on one second, sorry.
Dan, I assume you're writing furiously right now?
Happily not. The only thing I can get on my laptop, it says Dan, and then there's this stupid little circle underneath, and, but at least, thank heavens for the phone.
All right, we have a plan.
See the
There we
plan
go.
now? Okay. So I assume you're familiar with this property. It's been before you for other projects that I've drawn plans for but haven't presented for. So on this particular night, we're looking at replacing the existing septic system that's on the site. I'll zoom into where the existing cesspool is, which is on the westerly side of the existing building. So this is the existing building here, the retail property. So there's a cesspool over here with the bordering vegetated wetland on the northwest side, as well as the wetlands on the east side, and then a potential vernal pool that has not been inspected yet, but is definitely wetlands at the least. So unfortunately, the building is too close to the road to put a septic system in the front. So we're placing it directly behind the building. We have the existing building, an old garage that's still standing, existing greenhouse, and we're placing the septic system in between. It keeps us over 50 feet from all wetlands, 68.7 from this one, 70.8, and we're at 102 feet from the potential vernal pool with the leaching area. It will be a pump system because we did find high groundwater here. The Board of Health agent has reviewed the plan. He gave me a verbal okay, but I don't believe he's actually approved the plan formally. I have not heard back from him on that, but he has looked it over with me and was, like I said, gave me a verbal approval of the location and the design of the system. So there'll be sediment controls placed. If you're familiar, they've got landscaping bins over here right now, and then there's the car path that goes out to the back of the property. So we placing sediment controls along the edge of that driveway, along the building, and then on this end to prevent runoff going towards this wetlands. Are there any questions about the septic system?
So it looks like you have a bit of fill to put in there in order to make it functional. Do you have any idea the estimate of the amount?
Well, excuse me, we're at elevation 109. We're going up to 112 at the system. That's with the, as I said, we did find high groundwater there. System itself is trying to find the size of it.
So you're raising it up 3 feet. Is that what you're doing, Craig?
Yeah, over the system, we're raising up 3 feet, then grading down at a
Okay.
3
So
to 1
then-
slope.
So presumably, less than 100 cubic yards, you think?
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. All right, so, any commission members have any questions? And anyone in the audience have any questions, you can either speak up or press the hand, on your, I think it's your reactions button. You can, raise your hand. But this is a pretty straightforward repair. And I don't see any problems with it. Do you have any specific comments, John, or are we all set with this?
No, I mean, this is just more administrative. I mean, they could have done an emergency repair through the Board of Health, but instead, I suggested that they just come in front of us with this plan. So they've done the process. They've actually gone above and beyond because this could have been, it basically would not pass Title V. So they had to do this regardless.
Yeah. All right, so
And again, this is Brian Donahue. John has been very cooperative, and I appreciate him and his guidance and staying with the committee. And we thought it was best to be transparent with each and everyone, so you're fully aware of what actions we were in with the cesspool versus contained septic tank. So again, I appreciate yourself, John, and the board for hearing us.
yeah, well, this is a pretty common issue in the town of Norton where water table is frequently high. So I think this is a request for determination. So we will likely be issuing a negative determination, which means you proceed with the project. You do not have to file a notice of intent, assuming it's done according to plan. So I think at this point, unless there are further questions, we can consider a motion to close this public hearing.
I would make that motion.
Motion made by Tama and seconded by Mark. Roll call vote. So beginning with Tama and Paxton.
Aye.
And Mark, and I'll throw in an aye in the process.
Aye.
And we have Dan.
Aye.
I got him. All right, so the motion carries. We also have Ron O'Reilly joining us. So Dan, you can make a note of that in the minutes.
Okay.
So Ron, did you hear that whole hearing?
Oh, I had trouble getting on.
Okay, well, so we won't ask you to throw in a vote, but we now can do a quick vote on the request for determination itself. And as I said, this is likely can be a -3, assuming it's built according to plan.
Do we need a motion for that? I'm happy
We
to.
do.
Okay.
We do.
I will make that motion.
And we'll need a second.
Second.
We have a motion made by Tama and seconded by Mark for a negative determination. And we will do roll call vote, starting with Mark and Tama,
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan and Paxton, yes.
Aye.
Okay, and I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. That's a negative determination. Thank you, Craig, and was it Brian? Brian,
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
very good.
Thank.
Our next file number is 250-1138, 14 Guy Street. Notice of intent for proposed demolition and reconstruction of a single-family house with associated subsurface septic. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Yes, my name is David Klenner from Collins Civil Engineering. Good evening.
And I assume you have sharing
Yes, yep.
permission, so maybe you can bring up the plan.
Sure. All right. And everybody see the plan?
We can. Maybe enlarging a little would be good. Alex,
So, this is a demolition and reconstruction at Guy Street, 14 Guy Street. The existing house here is shown as the dashed line. It's a front to back split type of house. And it's up on a mound. The water table is fairly close to the surface. And, this house being demolished, most likely already has water problems in the basement. We need to keep our new foundation at least 1.5 feet above the observed water elevation. So that's what kind of determined the grades on the site, as well as the septic. So we have wetlands to the west, and these wetlands are mostly created by a low point in Edward Street with these catch basins. We have wetlands to the south across Edward Street, and therefore the 50-foot buffer is shown in the orange, and it cuts across like this. The 100-foot buffer is shown in purple or magenta, and it cuts through like this. And what we're proposing is a septic system in the very northeast corner of the site, completely outside the 100-foot buffer. All the components and the septic system itself will be outside the 100-foot buffer. You can see that it's kind of a raised system. We have an elevation of 54 here, and we have an elevation of 51 at the street. So it will be a raised elevation due to the water tables. I am proposing a erosion control limit of work line, and it starts over on Edward Street at the edge of the pavement, and it will work along the 50. Now, this area in here, if you've been out there, is disturbed, and I want to make sure that any disturbance removing this existing container is within our work limit so that we can loam and seed and stabilize the area. So I bring the silt fence down to within 31 feet of the wetland line. The wetland line was delineated by Brooke Monroe out of Carver for the information. Then I bring it over to the shed. I bring it up to the other shed, and then on the other side, outside the 100-foot buffer. And I bring it in front of the system and out to the pavement only because this is a mounted system and we want to keep the street as clean as possible. Now, we did have to, I don't show the elevation of the existing house, but it was at elevation 55, and we're bringing our top of foundation to 57.25. So we're raising the top of foundation a little over 2 feet to keep the basement out of the water. When we bring a driveway up here, this is a 10-to-1 slope. So for every 10 feet you go up the driveway, it raises 1 foot. It's a very doable slope. It's a nice slope into a garage. And we have a lot of grading, another 1.5 feet of grading on top of what's actually there out in the field to bring in around the house. Now, I talked to Mr. Thomas earlier today, and he suggested that, he actually informed me, and I confirmed it through Brian, the town administrator, that the Edward Street, if the entrance is on Guy Street, then that is the offset for the frontage. And then Edward Street would be sideline offset. So there is a possibility to move the house forward and move the house over. Now, I actually did that today to see what the effects would be. This is not on your plan, but I added it to this plan just to show the effects of what that would happen. Right now, we have a disturbance of 710 feet inside the 50-foot buffer, and our silt fence is about 31 feet from the line. Being that I would like to keep the silt fence around the container so we can move that and stabilize any earthwork that it creates. We're still going to be 31 feet from the container, but moving this house towards Edward Street brings it actually closer to the 50. I can't really move it forward. I tried moving it forward to the 40-foot offset of Guy Street, and it creates a driveway that's twice as steep as this, and that's just unobtainable. You can't maintain it, and it's a danger. It would be an ice danger. It also brings all the grading closer to these trees. Now, some of these trees have been cut, but it does bring the grading right up against these trees, and whatever trees are left may be in danger of being destroyed, having a slope that goes right up to them. The way that I have it here, we keep the slope off, and the disturbance, because you're moving the house closer to Edward Street, there's more disturbance in here. You can see how close we are to the 50 here. If we move it 10 or 15 feet over and then bring it within 30 feet of Edward Street, we create a lot of disturbance right in here. The disturbance going around the container is actually 335 square feet that I calculated. It would be very close to this, but this line would have to come out this way just to get the grading around the corner of the building. So because the 50 shoots out on that end, and the slope of the driveway and the water table, this is actually the least disturbance to the 50 and the wetland area, as opposed to moving it forward. And I'll leave that up to we can move it forward if the commission requires us to, and I'll leave that up to the commission. I think that this is a better layout with less disturbance than moving it forward and over towards Edward Street. So I guess that's it. The erosion control line will be I don't think we showed a detail for the erosion control on the site. We'll have to add a detail. We normally use a straw wattle with staked in around the site, but we could put whatever the commission requires. So I can answer any questions the commission may have, and the Board of Health, I believe, is reviewing it. I don't believe that they've approved it.
Were you requested to move the house?
We weren't requested, but John asked me to look at it to see why we had moved the house. And I thought, I was under the impression at first that we were required to have the 40-foot off both streets. So that's why I set it up this way. But Brian confirmed that we don't. But when I did move the house closer to the Edward Street, there was more of an impact to the 50-foot buffer and more of an impact to the existing trees that are there.
Yeah, well, you're staying outside the 25, which is kind of an absolute for us. But I mean, John, do you want to weigh in about the issue of moving the house? Personally, I think the idea of causing a steeper driveway is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously wasn't part of the analysis that I did. I just see a footprint, and if you move it to the east, it's less impacts within the buffer. So, on paper, that would be, what we'd want to see. But if it doesn't work out with all the other safety and it's more of a hazard for potential winter conditions, then, I would suggest that, safety is a number 1 priority, and the commission can allow for work within the buffer. So,
yeah. Well, I would be concerned about de-icing materials being used, particularly with a steeper driveway. So, hopefully the gentle slope will, there won't be that much of a need for that kind of thing. Do we have questions from other members of the commission?
Yeah, I just had two, I think. Just wondering what the slope is of the backyard area.
The backyard is all 3-to-1 slopes.
3-to-1. Okay.
And we were playing around the idea of maybe when it's constructed, do a small foot and a half landscape wall, maybe to make a little less impact and pick it up in the as-built. So.
Okay. And is there any consideration here for doing any sort of fence along the back to mark the 25-foot no disturb zone, or is that we're still a little ways away from that? Is that right?
Well, the 25-foot no disturb zone only comes onto the property here.
Okay.
And there is an existing fence that runs along this back property line. Everything on this side of it is pretty much disturbed. Everything on this side is not. So we could maintain that fence, I guess, and run it right to the street.
Okay, thank you.
Any audience members have any questions? So this is looks like a notice of intent. And so John, I assume all the information necessary for closing this is now available. Is that your sense?
Yes, we did receive a DP number for this. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head because I checked. I think it's
It's 1138, at least it
38,
was
yeah.
in the Google Drive.
I have a picture of it actually, if you want to see it. It's 250-1138,
Yep, 1138.
1138.
So we have
All
everything
right.
else administratively, to my knowledge. So we should be all set.
But
All right, so
we don't have an order yet, right? And our next meeting's 11/13.
Oh, no, we don't have, I haven't drafted up an order for this one yet, so they can
Right.
close. Well, no, we can't close it because it's gonna be beyond the 21-day window. So
Okay.
we're gonna have
So,
to continue it and issue the next meeting.
So, David, I don't know if you understand the fine point there. That we need to continue this until the next meeting, and then we would issue the orders of conditions at that time. Is that something you,
Yeah,
I can explain?
is there, do we close the hearing tonight and start the 21-day appeal period, or is that?
We can't because,
We
for
can't.
instance, it's gonna lapse.
Okay,
So, because we have
we
21
have,
days to issue an order. Otherwise, basically, you can go to DEP and just do the project.
okay,
So we don't want that to happen. So for this instance, we would have to basically wait until the next meeting and then issue the order the same night.
okay, issue the order the same night, okay,
yeah, and then the 10-day appeal period starts.
Yes.
okay,
But I mean, this is fairly straightforward, so there's no real issue.
yeah,
It's just
I understand.
procedural. So with that, we I think are ready for a motion to continue this hearing until the 13th of November.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue the hearing on file 250-1138 until the whatever the next meeting was.
November
13th, was it?
Yes,
Is it-
exactly.
November 13th.
So we need a second for the motion to continue.
Second,
So we have a motion made by Dan, seconded by Tama, roll call vote, starting with Mark and Paxton,
Aye.
Aye.
Tama and Dan,
aye.
Aye.
and Ron. That looked like an aye. So why don't you just do a thumbs up there, Ron? Okay, we got a thumbs up, and I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. This hearing is continued until November 13th, at which time we will issue an order of conditions.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
The next item is file number 250-1139, 0 Dean Street. It is a proposed project to verify resource areas and construct a 4-lot residential subdivision off Dean Street with a total of 8 residences. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering.
You probably have screen sharing capabilities, if you can bring up a plan.
Yes, sir. It's loading right now, and everybody should be able to see that.
We do, and if you can just make it a little bigger, it'll be easier.
Absolutely. How's that?
That looks good.
Okay. What I'll do, Mr. Chairman, if it's all right with you, I'll give just a brief overview of the project to set the context, and then I'll get into exactly why we're here with regard to wetlands and buffer zone impacts and things like that. This is a project on 0 Dean Street. This is an existing vacant piece of property right now. It totals about 16 acres. The wetland boundary that you see on this plan was delineated by Brad Holmes at Environmental Consulting and Restoration, who I'm sure you're all probably very familiar with. What's not shown on this plan, but it is on subsequent sheets, and I will show you that as well when we get there. There is a potential vernal pool in the area here where my cursor is. It was delineated outside of vernal pool season, but all accounts say it probably qualifies. So we did take that into account and just assume that it does in our design. So the proposed project is 1, 2, 3, 4 lots, all conforming to zoning. In order to access those lots, we are proposing just a small cul-de-sac through each connection to Dean Street here to provide frontage to these lots. Now, all of the roadway construction is outside of the buffer zone areas, which is obviously very good. In fact, the only place that we get into the buffer zone areas here is with a stormwater discharge from this particular street here. So I'm just going to scroll through the plan set and bring you to that so I can show you what I'm referring to. If I can find it. Of course, this goes slow when I need it. So let me just zoom in here on this one. So this is what we are referring to as Kate's Way. This is on the southern side of the property, the southernmost proposed roadway. And what you can see here is that we have kept the limit of disturbance for all of the proposed work associated with the roadway, stormwater depression, houses, lawns, everything outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. Now, obviously, as we go through this, these houses and lot development characteristics are subject to change to some degree based on the final house selection, things like that. For example, we're proposing duplexes at this time. That does require a special permit from the planning board, which we are before tomorrow night. So if for some reason that special permit wasn't granted, some of these layouts may change, but I bring that up to say that in the event that any of this was to change in that the eventual lot construction would encroach within the buffer zone, that would be a separate notice of intent filing for that individual lot at that time, excuse me. So just to kind of simplify, our intent tonight is roadways, infrastructure, and what's associated with that. I'm going to go to the other road, which we are proposing as Carl's Way. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see that. Now, this is the road on the northerly side of the site. Again, proposing a couple of duplexes. And we have kept all of our lot grading and everything outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, with the exception of this little leg that you see here. And this is the outlet to a subsurface infiltration system that is located under the proposed roadway. And the only reason we're bringing it back this far is because that's where we need to go to make our grading work, so we can daylight the pipe. The other thing that you will see, and I mentioned this before, and this is where it comes into play, you will see that right here on this plan, we have the delineated limits of the potential vernal pool, and the 100-foot buffer zone comes to here, and you can say that we've kept our discharge outside of that 100-foot buffer zone to the vernal pool. We've also kept our discharges outside of the 25-foot buffer zone to the wetland. And again, this is the only place on the project that we are proposing to encroach is within the buffer zone, is this location here. I believe, and I might as well make some comment about this as well, that you folks hold a stormwater permit for a project of this nature. And just a couple of notes on the stormwater design. We have proposed infiltration throughout, so the roads both grade to flow toward Dean Street because the higher point of the property is back here in both cases on both roads. Both roads are equipped with catch basins at the throat, at the property line. They have a water quality treatment unit before going into an underground infiltration facility to secure the required groundwater recharge. And then further back on the roadway, each cul-de-sac has a catch basin in the middle that again is a water quality unit. discharges to an underground infiltration system, which then discharges along the natural flow path. Each house is proposed, and there are notation on the plan, and we would expect that it would likely be a condition in an order of conditions. Each house is proposed to be equipped with its own rooftop infiltration system that will accommodate a 100-year storm event to make sure that we are getting the water back into the ground. And furthermore, you know, the reason we do it that way at this point is because, like I said, should the eventual house design change, then that system would change with it. So we leave that to be a little bit flexible. Aside from that, what I will say, we do have a letter from Pat Brennan, who is your review engineer, who reviewed the stormwater on this. He had a couple of minor conditions of approval that he recommended, which we don't take exception to. And other than that, I think you'll find that it's a pretty clean peer review letter. And obviously the other thing that we were before you with for this is confirmation of the wetland delineation. I do not know at this point if your agent has had an opportunity to do that, but I trust John is always very, very good at what he does, and I'm sure that we will have no issues with that. So that is the overall presentation. I'm glad to take any questions that you folks have.
I can confirm that I didn't need to change any flags out here, and I do agree that that area you've identified as a potential vernal pool looks like it may be a certified vernal pool. So appreciate you just putting that 100-foot buffer on there in anticipation that it would be considered a certified vernal pool.
So roughly, so you're saying the entry roads slope up to a gentle mound, which then slopes down to the wetland in the back. Roughly how high above the Dean Street is that cul-de-sac area?
So my grade down here on Dean Street, and I'm just trying to interpolate as we go, and forgive me, my eyes are probably as good as anybody's at this point looking at the computer all day. I've got an elevation of roughly 116 on this road at the connection to Dean Street, and I'm at 121 up at the road. So it's up at the cul-de-sac. So I got about a 5-foot climb there. But what I will say as well is that if you look, this contour where my mouse is 121, and it runs right through this existing 121 contour. So we are matching grades here appropriately. We're not grading off of the site or anything like that. And let me just go back to the last page, the page prior to this one, to show the same basic thing. This road has a little bit of a curve in it just to accommodate some encroachments on the property. But again, we're 120 in this location at the cul-de-sac. We are closer to 116 down here at the road, so about a 4-foot grade change. And again, on my existing conditions plan, I'm running a 120 contour right through the middle of this guy. So again, we're matching grades pretty reasonably.
So it's a very gentle slope then.
It is gentle, yes. All of the proposed slopes through this area here are no more than 3 to 1. The other thing that I should mention is that we did do test pits out here, a number of them, basically in all the locations of our proposed stormwater mitigation areas. We had good favorable results, actually better than we expected, deeper groundwater elevations than we expected. So everything worked out very well for us.
All right, any further questions from members of the commission or members of the audience? So we have a number, and it doesn't, with regard to buffer work, it's pretty limited. So John, I'm assuming this can be continued with the possibility of orders of conditions. This is all one, right? So it'll be a single order of condition.
Yeah, this is all one project. It's not split. So yeah, what we can do is I can, request a continuance from the applicant, and then I can draft up an order potentially to be issued at the next meeting. And that will give them enough time if there's any changes with planning to revise the plans as well.
All right, but I mean, this is fairly straightforward. I wouldn't anticipate much in the way of changes with planning. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not my purview or our purview. I mean, obviously, it's up for planning to decide on what they think is adequate for this project, but
Yeah,
but
I
for
will say,
for conservation, there, I don't see an issue with this project now.
if I could just shed some light on that, we did submit, actually, we submitted planning application, I think a day before this one, so they've all had it, that application for the same amount of time, and we've got no comments back from anybody but the water department, which I'm gonna take as no news being good news at this point. So even if there were some changes to be made, I don't think there's anything that really dramatically impacts anything with regard to buffer zone impacts or stormwater design at this point.
all right, so unless there are no further questions, I mean, unless there are further questions, we can consider a motion to continue this hearing until November 13th.
So moved.
Motion by Dan,
Second.
seconded by Tama. Roll call vote, starting with Tama and Paxton,
Aye.
Aye.
Ron and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
Forgetting somebody,
And
I think,
Dan,
no,
Dan, I think.
Dan, okay. I
I,
guess it was, and myself, I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. This hearing will be taken up again on 11/13, but likely just to close and issue an order.
Great, well, thank you all for your time, we appreciate it.
Very good, thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
We now go into our continued public hearings, and we actually have a set of 3 that were considered all at once, namely file numbers 1129, 1130, and 1131, with an address of 0 Mansfield Avenue, which corresponds to a triangle parcel between Mansfield Avenue and the end of Reservoir Street here in Norton. They have requested a continuation until the 13th of November.
So moved.
Motion made by Dan and seconded by Mark. Again, for continuation of this hearing. Again, roll call vote, starting with Tama and Paxton,
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan and Ron,
I,
and Mark.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. The next hearing is file number 250-1132, which is 6 Mary Jo Road, for Mark Mariano. Mariano again requests a continuation until November 13. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Tama, seconded by Mark. Roll call vote, starting with Tama and Paxton,
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan and Ron,
I,
and Mark.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, the motion carries. Next up is file number 250-1136, 0 Eddy Street for Share Corp. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
They said that they may be able to get on the call tonight, but if not, to request a continuance. So it doesn't look like they're here tonight, so I presume that would be a continuance. We we received some new information today from the peer review consultant.
Okay, so
So,
potentially that needs to be gone over anyway.
yeah, it needs to be gone over. They got us some plans, but they didn't come through to us digitally, and we didn't know we received it. So it was just I guess a miscommunication error on the applicant. So we never was able to get in touch with them. And I just reached out to them last week, and they said, all right, well, if the peer review consultant cannot get back to us in time, we'll probably request a continuance.
All right, well, I'm okay with going ahead and putting it on the agenda for 11/13. We need a motion.
so moved.
Motion made by Dan and seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Ron. A roll call vote for continuation of the 0 Eddy Street project, beginning with Tama and Paxton.
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan and Ron.
I,
and Mark,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye, so motion carries. The next, hearing,
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt. Was that 1156? Was that the number?
no, it was, 250, 1136, 0 Eddy Street.
1130. Thank you.
Yep. Next hearing is file number 250-1119, 0 South Washington Street. It was a request for an amended order of condition by David, I guess it's Patuk, okay. Do we have a representative of that applicant?
Similarly to the request from them, they did request, I guess, through that all boards continue projects until they're ready to basically have all their plans for planning board. So they're meeting with planning board, I think, not the next meeting, which is tomorrow, but they're supposed to submit something for their next meeting. So I presume that, the 11/13 date would be sufficient for them moving forward.
Yeah, I went through the Google Drive material. I didn't see anything new on that, so.
No, they haven't provided anything new. They need to get through planning.
All right, so we're looking for a motion for continuation of file number 250-1119 until November 13th.
So move.
We have Mark Beecher, so we have a motion by Mark and second by Ron. Roll call vote, starting with Tama and Paxton,
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan and Ron,
Aye.
Aye.
and Mark,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. We're now on to requests for certificates of compliance. First up is file number 250-1082, Leonard Street Extension for Condyne Corporation. So we have issued a certificate, I believe, for the roadway for this. And then we have it looks like this is the parcel with the buildings on it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And everything is all set for issuing a certificate?
Yeah, they did a great job with finishing the binder course on everything, and all the areas have been stabilized based on my most recent inspection. There was a minor area, but obviously that'll take at some point. But they've been instructed to take out the sediment and erosion controls. They provided all the necessary documentation that was in part of the order of conditions. So, my suggestion is to issue a full certificate of compliance for this project.
All right, we're looking for such a motion.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion from Ron and a second from Mark. So roll call vote, starting with Paxton and Tama,
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan and Mark,
Aye.
Aye.
and Ron.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So full certificate of compliance for file number 250-1082. So thank you, guys.
Good. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
I know you
Thank you, we appreciate it.
held with just incredible attention by the dynamics of this meeting. So thank you for attending.
Have a good night. All right, take care. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
So request for certificates of compliance or certificate of compliance for file number 250-0871, 135 Bay Road. I couldn't tell exactly what we're issuing a certificate on.
So this used to be the old, you remember the Bayview Heights project? That was probably a few years ago. Probably, I want to say mid 2000s, never was built. I think it was a subdivision project that they were proposing on a big tract of land.
Yeah.
They never went through with the project. The landowner, I guess it changed hands, and the landowner is not interested in pursuing that project. It expired anyway, so they can't do it anyway. But at this point, what he's looking to do is just basically close out all the past permits, and get a COC that none of the work was done, so that way he can sell the property, to a potential buyer.
Okay, so that as-built plan or that plan with nothing on it was,
Yeah,
is in fact an as-built plan.
there's no as-built to be provided because no work has been done on the site, so.
All right, file number 250-0871. It looks like we can issue a certificate stating no work has been done, and if the project is in compliance on that basis.
If you want-
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Dan and seconded by Tama. Roll call vote, starting with Paxton and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Tama and Ron,
Aye.
and Mark.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. Our next item is
So they were two projects. They were
okay, so
071 and 072. So
okay,
they split them into two projects,
all right, so it's basically a ditto then.
basically.
Okay, so we can consider a similar ditto motion.
So move.
Second.
So we have a motion by Ron, seconded by Mark. Roll call vote, starting with Paxton and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Ron and Tamara,
Aye.
Aye.
and Mark,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye. Motion carries. And now we have an order of conditions. For 209 South Washington Street, 299 rather, South Washington Street. That was the 55,000 square foot, I guess we'd call a warehouse building, on a parcel in the industrial park. And I guess the only notable thing is they said they were going to do a rubber roof to avoid the difficulties with metal roofs.
Yeah, that was one of the suggestions that Riccio recommended to be conditioned, that they'd come in with a rubber roof per design, and then, for instance, if it was going to change, they'd come back and get an amendment.
Okay, and I didn't.
Please, something about that.
What's that?
What's that, Dan?
I think Lisa said something about that at the last meeting, but maybe I'm
did.
wrong. Maybe it was something else.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so if they come back for it, they would have to include a pre-treatment plan for dealing with the runoff from the metal roof.
Correct, because they're within a zone 2.
Okay. And but there was nothing else I saw that was controversial.
No, it was pretty straightforward. Obviously, I think we ironed out a lot of the requirements that they'd have to provide, being a similar warehouse project that we've done already in the last couple of years. So,
All right, somebody want to venture forth and offer a motion to approve the orders of conditions as submitted.
so before you guys do that and entertain this, Paxton cannot vote on this one. Just want to throw it out there.
Okay,
So move.
so we have a motion by Ron and seconded by,
Second.
I think Tom got the second. So we'll register Paxton's vote as abstain. And so Dan and Ron, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
And Tama and Mark?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, and the motion carries. So Paxton, I'm sure you committed that order of conditions to memory by now, right?
Yeah.
Our next item is the minutes, I believe. Yes. September 11 minutes. So I have nothing to comment. Let's see, I'm pretty sure we have a quorum on this. Myself, Mark, Ron, Dan, Tommy. Yes, we definitely have a quorum on voting on this. Anybody have any comments? If not, we can consider a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 11th, 2023 Conservation Commission meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by Tama and a second by Ron to approve the minutes as submitted. Again, Dan and Ron, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Tama and Mark?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye and we'll register Paxton's vote as abstention. And our next one is September 25th. And we have, let's see, we have Tama, myself, Ron, Dan, and Mark. Okay, so again,
I wasn't at that meeting. I don't know if that matters, but
absent. Okay, I got it. I misread it. Yeah, you're right. But we still have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we got enough. So any comments? Deals with the Zero Mansfield Avenue project extensively, and then the South Washington we just dealt with, and that's pretty much it.
Oh, work of subtlety and nuance. I laughed, I cried. It was exciting.
Well, you did a terrific job. Nobody is going to question whether or not things were reported as they happened. So we can consider a motion unless there's specific comments.
So moved.
So we have a motion by Ron and second by Mark. So just one comment. So this is also available as a YouTube video. Is that correct, John?
That's correct. Yeah. On Norton Media.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes as submitted. So Ron and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye and we'll register Paxton and Thomas vote as abstentions.
Okay.
We are now up to report from staff and anything else.
Nothing as of right now. Obviously, we've got town meeting next Monday. So I don't know, Dan, you want to, make your little pitch for your item that you want to talk about?
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Yes, it's outside of the ken of conservation, but it is something that can be done without. It's free, so that's always good to conserve money as well. The motto is Acumen Acutum that I am proposing, which refers both to the lance of the Norton Lancers. It literally means sharp mental acumen, but it also means a sharp point. So a sharp lance point, and we would hope that our students would always be sharp, both Norton and Wheaton. So there's the motto I propose does both. Sharp mental acumen and sharp point. Acumen acutum.
So Dan,
Not
Dan,
to be confused. Yes?
so Dan, this will be one of the docket items at town meeting for adopting a motto. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, it will. Yes,
Great.
yes.
I will be there.
So that motto will be under the aegis of the town, or the
yeah.
Conservation Commission itself.
That'll be
No,
under
no,
the
the
town.
town,
That's a
but we
town
would-
motto.
We would hope that John revises our official sweatshirts to include it on the right under the pines there.
Yeah, I can,
Kidding,
okay.
I can definitely do that if it gets approved at the next meeting, Dan. I can definitely have that, you know, definitely added to for probably about $10 extra. So we're good.
Oh, so it does cost something, I guess.
All right.
It'll cost us something. It's fine though. But so getting to the next point, I wanted to make a suggestion that Daniel Pearson be the official conservation clerk for the commission. I wanted to see if the commission would be open to having Dan be the official clerk, as he has taken on additional tasks and administrative duties, and I think a title to go along with that is well deserved. So I would make that
Okay.
recommendation to the commission to nominate Dan as the conservation clerk.
All right, so we can entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second.
Second,
So we have a motion made by Ron and seconded by Tama to nominate Dan Pearson as official conservation clerk. So, Ron and Tama, how do you vote?
aye.
And Mark and Paxton.
Aye.
Aye.
We never asked you, Dan, but are you willing to be the conservation clerk as a title?
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, but yes, I'd be happy to. Chaucer
Excellent.
thought it was great to be a clerk. Einstein thought it was great to be a clerk. So how can I not think it's great to be a clerk?
I missed the first name. Who was it? The first?
Jeffrey Chaucer.
Oh, Chaucer. Oh, yes. Okay. Well, I'll throw in my vote too. So congratulations. You now have a title.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I will make sure to update the official conservation website with Daniel Pearson as the clerk tomorrow.
All right. So I don't want to put you on the spot, Paxton, but it's kind of a lot to have fly by you in a meeting, your first meeting. But you have any specific questions you want us to help you with at this point? Because it'll be a long time before you have no questions.
I'm following so far, and I just say I'm not sure if there's a person specifically who works on notation or just making notes and stuff like that here. I know everyone's probably following along, taking notes, but just let me know if you want to throw anything my way. Happy to get involved. I think right now it's just familiarizing myself a little bit with some of the terminology. Some stuff is things I know about. Other things I think I'll learn as I go. But no specific questions at the moment.
The other thing that comes up periodically is there are courses, usually one-day courses, that commonly MACC runs, and the commission pays for members who want to attend those courses. So that's always, and John, I'm assuming you would bring it to our attention when courses are available?
Yeah, typically they're available, I want to say in March, April, May. That's when they start the big conference and seminars. So it's actually a full day event kind of thing, and you can actually take multiple kind of courses that they offer from, you know, professionals, and other agents, other commission members are there too, so you can mingle with them and kind of get the gist of basically of kind of what it's all about. But like I said to you as we were discussing, you know, if there's ever an opportunity or something that you want to do, you know, I'm always at work. So, I mean, I'm always free to basically take you on site inspections, or, you know, we can sit down in the office and go over a project. You know, Dan, whoever else wants to come, I mean, you know, there's always the opportunity for us to go on sites, and we can just go out and kind of learn, basically kind of the field aspect of things. And then also we can talk about the regulatory stuff that goes along with that. So, you know, the sky's the limit when it comes to learning in this kind of field. I mean, there's a lot that goes along with it, but it's not something you're going to instantly grasp in like in you know, a year. It's going to take you a couple of years to get it. I mean, some of the professionals, you know, that are on this board, I mean, some of them work in this day to day. Others have just kind of, you know, accumulated the knowledge through the years. So, you know, it's just something that you basically need to keep at and kind of, you know, keep an open mind for, and, you know, continue, you know, learning and kind of try to do what you can, and, you know, being a good steward, and, you know, reading through it and making sure you're following the rules. So, you know, it's all basically as much as you want to put into it.
Yeah, sounds great. And I'll just put it out there. If there is that copy of the guidebook, MACC guidebook or anything,
I'm gonna have Megan get you a copy of the guidebook, so that way you can get it.
That's great. That'll be good
Yeah,
start.
I'll reach out to you tomorrow to get more of the information so I can send it to them. So then they'll reach out to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
One of the things I enjoy about this is that I learn not just about the conservation regulatory structure, but also planning, Board of Health, and other stuff about town government, and the fact that much of it, or pretty much all of it, is based on things that have been carefully thought out and modified over time to be functional. And I think that's one of the things a lot of people don't really realize about government, is that it's not an off-the-cuff event. It's a lot of history has gone into finding the best process for these. You know, the regulations are based on best process principles, and a lot of people don't get acquainted with them, and so a lot of what happens in town government they feel is illogical, except it's really there to protect their interests. And that's one of the things I enjoy about being involved with town government in general. So I think we can, if there's anything else, otherwise we can sign off.
All right, so I will see everybody at the next meeting, which is November 13th, and everybody have a wonderful, happy Halloween.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night.